At first, I thought I was being paranoid. For 62 years, I'd trusted my instincts about people. I'd raised 3 children, worked as a school nurse for 30 years, and prided myself on reading people well. But when it came to Coach Brandon, I doubted myself. He was young, enthusiastic, and everyone in our small town of Maplewood loved him. My granddaughter Emma certainly did. Emma had been living with me for 8 months. My daughter Sarah was deployed overseas with the Army, and I'd gladly taken in my 13-year-old granddaughter. Emma was shy, bookish, and had always struggled with confidence. When she asked to join the swim team at the community center that spring, I was thrilled. Swimming might help her come out of her shell, make friends, build confidence. Coach Brandon seemed perfect for the job. 28 years old, former college swimmer, patient and encouraging with the kids. The parents raved about him. "He's wonderful with the children," Linda Martinez told me at the parent meeting. My daughter actually looks forward to practice. I watched him interact with the team during that first week. He was attentive, professional, always surrounded by other coaches or parents. I felt grateful Emma had found something she enjoyed. The changes started small. 3 weeks into the season, Emma began staying after practice for extra coaching. Brandon offered this to several swimmers, he said, to help them prepare for the upcoming regional meet. It was always in the pool area, always with other kids around. What could be wrong with extra help? But then Emma started checking her phone constantly. She'd never been particularly interested in social media before. Now she'd rush to her room after dinner, close the door, and I'd hear the ping of notifications late into the night. When I asked about it, she'd say it was just group chats with the team. "Coach Brandon sends us motivational messages," she explained, "and videos of technique tips." I wanted to believe her. I did believe her, at first. But something in her voice, the way she wouldn't quite meet my eyes, made my stomach tighten. Still, I told myself I was overreacting. Kids these days were always on their phones. This was normal, wasn't it? Then came the nightmares. Emma would wake up gasping, and when I'd go to her room, she'd be curled up in her bed, trembling. "Just a bad dream, Grandma," she'd whisper. But the dark circles under her eyes deepened each week. She stopped eating breakfast. Her grades, which had always been excellent, started to slip. Her English teacher called me. "Emma seems distracted lately. Is everything okay at home?" I asked Emma if something was wrong. "No, Grandma. I'm fine. Just tired from practice." But her hands shook when she said it. She avoided my gaze, and that gnawing feeling in my gut grew stronger. 4 weeks into the season, I noticed Emma flinching when I touched her shoulder. My gentle, affectionate granddaughter who used to curl up next to me on the couch now kept her distance. She started taking 2, sometimes 3 showers a day. She'd scrub her skin until it was red, and once I found her crying in the bathroom, her arms wrapped around herself. "Emma, sweetheart, please talk to me," I begged, but she just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I can't, Grandma. You'll hate me." Those words hit me like a physical blow. Hate her? My precious girl? What could possibly make her think that? I held her while she cried, but she wouldn't say another word. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing. Something was very, very wrong. And somehow, I knew it had to do with swimming, with Coach Brandon. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I told Emma I needed to use her phone to make a call, because mine was dead. It was a lie, and it made me sick to deceive her. But I had to know. She handed it over reluctantly and went to get ready for school. My hands trembled as I opened her messages. What I found made my blood run cold. There were hundreds of messages from Coach Brandon. They started normal enough in the first week. "Great job at practice today. Remember to stretch before bed." But then they changed. "You looked beautiful in that swimsuit today. I can't stop thinking about you. You're so much more mature than the other girls." The messages grew more explicit, more demanding. He'd send them late at night, early in the morning. "Why haven't you responded? You know I care about you. This is our special connection." And there were photos. Photos he'd sent of himself. Photos he'd asked Emma to send. My granddaughter, just 13 years old, being manipulated by a predator. I felt bile rise in my throat. My vision blurred, with rage and horror. But worse were Emma's responses. I could see the manipulation working. At first, she'd responded politely, trying to steer conversations back to swimming, but he'd worn her down. "You're so special, Emma. Not like other girls your age. You understand me." He'd isolated her, made her feel chosen, special, and then he'd started making demands. "If you tell anyone, they won't understand. They'll blame you. Your grandmother will be disappointed in you." There it was, the reason she couldn't tell me. He'd poisoned her mind, made her think I'd blame her for his predatory behavior. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to that community center and confront him right then. But 30 years as a school nurse had taught me something crucial. I needed evidence. I needed everything documented. Because without proof, it would be his word against hers, and I'd seen too many cases where the predator walked free. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every photo. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. Then I called my friend Margaret, a retired police detective. "I need help," I told her, my voice breaking. "And I need it now." Margaret came over within the hour. We sat at my kitchen table while Emma was at school, and I showed her everything. Her face went white, then red with anger. "This is classic grooming," she said. "How long has this been going on?" 4 weeks, maybe 5. My voice cracked. How did I miss this? I'm supposed to protect her. "Listen to me, Dorothy." Margaret gripped my hands. "You didn't miss it. You caught it. Many kids go years before anyone notices. You saw the signs and you acted. Now we need to move fast, but we need to move smart." She called a detective she trusted in the SVU unit, a woman named Detective Sarah Chen. Detective Chen arrived that afternoon, before Emma got home from school. She was young, maybe 35, with kind eyes and a calm demeanor that helped steady my racing heart. "Mrs. Patterson, what you've documented here is enough for us to start an investigation immediately," she said after reviewing the screenshots. "But I need to be honest with you, the process isn't easy. Emma will need to give a statement. There will be an investigation. Other parents will need to be notified in case there are other victims." Other victims? The thought hadn't even occurred to me. How many other children had he done this to? "In cases like this, there's rarely just one," Detective Chen said gently. "Predators like this often groom multiple victims simultaneously." I felt sick, but I also felt clarity. This had to stop. Today. Now. What do we do? First, we need to talk to Emma. With your permission, I'd like to do a forensic interview. It's recorded, and it's conducted by a specially trained interviewer. It's designed to be as non-traumatic as possible for the child. When Emma came home from school that afternoon, I was waiting in the living room with Detective Chen. Emma's face went white when she saw the police officer. She immediately thought she was in trouble. "Emma, sweetheart, you're not in any trouble," I said quickly, standing up to hug her. But she backed away, her eyes filling with tears. "He told you, didn't he? Coach Brandon told you, and now you hate me." "Oh, my darling girl." I knelt down to her level, even though my old knees protested. "I could never hate you. Never. What Coach Brandon did to you is not your fault. Do you hear me? None of this is your fault." Emma collapsed into my arms, sobbing. And finally, the story came out. "It started with compliments," she said. "He noticed her during practice, told her she had potential. He asked for her number to send her training videos. The messages started innocent, then slowly became personal. He told her she was mature for her age, that she understood him in ways others didn't. He made her feel special. Then he started asking for photos, just in her swimsuit at first. For technique analysis, he claimed, but the requests escalated. He told her it was normal, that this was how coaches worked with elite athletes. He said if she wanted to be great, she needed to trust him completely. And when she hesitated, he'd guilt her. "I thought you were different. I thought you were mature enough for this level of training." He said if I told anyone, they wouldn't believe me. Emma whispered through her tears. "He said everyone loves him, that you'd think I was lying to get attention, that I'd ruin his life and everyone would hate me." I held her tighter. "Emma, listen to me. I believe you. Detective Chen believes you, and we're going to make sure he never does this to anyone else." The forensic interview happened the next morning at a child advocacy center. I sat in a waiting room, my stomach in knots, while a trained interviewer talked to Emma. It took 2 hours. When Emma came out, she looked exhausted, but somehow lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Detective Chen came out shortly after. "We have enough to arrest him today," she said. "And Mrs. Patterson, you should know that 2 other mothers have already come forward since we started looking into this yesterday. There are at least 3 victims we know of, possibly more. 3 children. At least 3. This monster had been preying on children right under all our noses, and we'd called him a great coach. We'd trusted him with our kids." The arrest happened that afternoon at the community center, right before practice. I insisted on being there. Margaret thought it was a bad idea, that I should stay home with Emma, but I needed to see it. Needed to watch him face consequences. Emma stayed with Margaret, safe at my house. I stood in the parking lot with a group of other parents as police cars pulled up. We'd been told there would be an arrest, but not who. The confusion on everyone's faces turned to shock when officers walked into the building and emerged 10 minutes later with Coach Brandon in handcuffs. "There must be some mistake," Linda Martinez cried out. "Not Brandon, he's wonderful with the kids." That's when Detective Chen stepped forward and addressed the gathered parents. "Coach Brandon Mitchell has been arrested on multiple charges of child exploitation and grooming. If your child has been in contact with him outside of supervised practices, please contact us immediately." The crowd erupted. Parents pulled out their phones, calling their children, checking messages. 3 more mothers approached Detective Chen right there in the parking lot, their faces pale. "My daughter has been getting messages from him. He asked my son to stay after practice alone. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. That evening, my phone rang nonstop. Parents I barely knew called to thank me for speaking up. Others were angry. "How could you accuse him without proof?" one father demanded. "You've ruined that young man's life." But most were grateful, horrified, and guilty that they hadn't seen the signs. The investigation moved quickly. Forensic analysis of Brandon's phone and computer revealed communications with 7 children in total, ranging in age from 11 to 14. Emma wasn't the first. She wasn't even the second. He'd been doing this for at least 2 years, across 3 different swim clubs in 2 states. He'd been fired from his previous position, but the club hadn't disclosed why, just given him a neutral reference. He'd moved to Maplewood and started again. The trial took 8 months. Emma had to testify, and it was the hardest thing I've ever watched. She sat in that witness stand, her voice shaking, and told her story. Brandon's lawyer tried to discredit her, suggested she'd misunderstood, that she had a crush on the coach, but the evidence was overwhelming. The messages, the photos, the testimony of 6 other children telling nearly identical stories. I sat behind Emma every day of that trial. I held her hand during breaks. I reminded her that she was brave, that she was a warrior, and when the verdict came back guilty on all counts, I watched that man's face crumble as the judge sentenced him to 23 years in prison. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. The healing didn't happen overnight. Emma started therapy immediately, twice a week at first. She had nightmares for months. There were days she didn't want to get out of bed, days she blamed herself despite everyone telling her it wasn't her fault. Trauma doesn't follow a neat timeline. But slowly, gradually, I watched my granddaughter reclaim herself. She joined a support group for survivors. She started writing poetry about her experience. 6 months after the trial, she gave a presentation at her school about recognizing predatory behavior. She was terrified, but she did it anyway. "Grandma," she told me that night, "if my story can help even one kid speak up sooner, it was worth it. I'm not going to tell you we're fine now, that everything is back to normal. That would be a lie. Emma still has hard days. She's wary of adult men in positions of authority. She probably always will be. But she's also stronger than I ever imagined. She's learning to trust again, to believe that not everyone is dangerous, that what happened to her doesn't define her. As for me, I've become an advocate. I give talks at schools and community centers about the warning signs of grooming. I've connected with other grandparents who are raising grandchildren, helping them understand what red flags to watch for. Because here's what I learned. Predators count on our trust. They count on us not wanting to seem paranoid or accusatory. They groom communities just as carefully as they groom children. Here's what I wish I'd known sooner. When a coach or teacher or any adult in authority wants private communication with your child, that's a red flag. When practices run late with no other adults present, that's a red flag. When your child becomes secretive about their phone, when they pull away physically, when they seem anxious or depressed suddenly, those are warning signs. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't worry about offending someone or seeming paranoid. Your child's safety is more important than anyone's feelings, including your own discomfort about confronting the situation. And if your child does come to you, or if you discover abuse, believe them. Document everything. Contact law enforcement immediately. Don't confront the abuser alone or try to handle it yourself. These people are manipulative and dangerous, and they're very good at talking their way out of situations. I'm grateful every day that I listened to my gut, that I acted when I did. 4 weeks. That's how long it took from the first warning signs to me checking Emma's phone. 4 weeks of abuse, of manipulation, of my granddaughter suffering. I used to torture myself thinking about how I didn't catch it sooner. But my therapist, yes, I see a therapist now too, helped me reframe it. 4 weeks is fast. Many children suffer for years before anyone notices. Emma is 15 now. Her mother came home from deployment and we all went to family therapy together. Sarah struggles with guilt too, feeling like she should have been here. But we're learning together that the only person responsible for what happened is Brandon Mitchell. He made the choice to prey on children. We made the choice to stop him. Last month, Emma went swimming again, for the first time since the abuse. It was at a public pool, on a day when I knew it would be crowded. She wore her old team swimsuit. I watched from the bleachers as she stood at the edge of the pool, her whole body tense. For a long moment I thought she'd change her mind, but then she dove in. She swam one lap, then another. When she climbed out, she was crying, but she was also smiling. "I did it, Grandma," she said. "I didn't let him take this from me. That's my girl. That's my warrior." If you're reading this, or listening to this, and something resonates with you, if you have that gnawing feeling in your gut that something isn't right with your child or grandchild, please act on it. You might be wrong. I hope you're wrong. But if you're right, every day matters. Every hour matters. Call the National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-42-24453. Contact your local police. Reach out to a child advocacy center. There are resources, people trained to help you navigate this. You don't have to do it alone. And to the survivors listening, the ones who lived through something like what Emma experienced or worse, I want you to know something. It wasn't your fault. Whatever happened to you, however long ago, whoever the perpetrator was, it wasn't your fault. You were a child. They were an adult who abused their power and your trust. The shame belongs to them, not to you. Speaking up is terrifying. I watched Emma do it, and I saw how much courage it took. But silence protects predators. Your voice, your story, might be what saves the next child. It might be what helps another survivor realize they're not alone. Emma wants me to tell you one more thing. She's asked me to share this at every talk I give. She says, to the kids who are going through this right now, who think no one will believe you, who think you're the only one, I promise you're not alone. Tell someone. Keep telling until someone listens. It's not going to ruin your life to speak up. The abuse is what's ruining your life. Speaking up is what will save it. My granddaughter is braver than I ever was at her age. Braver than I'll ever be. She took her power back. And if sharing our story helps even one person do the same, then everything we went through will have meant something. Thank you for listening to our story. Thank you for caring enough to watch this video. And if you know a child who seems off, who's pulling away, who's changed suddenly, please look closer. Ask questions. Don't stop asking until you get real answers. You might save a life.